Hi, I'm Maureen and this is Rich, and this video is the second in our series on Christian socialism.
Last week, we asked the question, was Jesus a socialist? Countless opposing parties have tried to lay claim to Jesus since the days he walked the earth. And it's very easy to cherry-pick his words to fit your worldview. But a fully Christian society, from what we can deduce by reading the New Testament, would look nothing like our idea of a nation-state, not even a socialist one. C.S. Lewis remarked that if we were to come across such a society, each of us would like some bits of it, but I am afraid very few of us would like the whole thing.
Jesus never asked his followers to promote a political agenda, after all. So if Christianity means doing what Jesus said we should do, for Christians, advocating for political change should be much lower on the agenda than, say, simply following Jesus, which will transform all aspects of our personal and social lives, including our relationship with money.
Real simple, Christianity is not socialism. So, that begs the question, why do we put the two terms together in the title of our series, no less? Because, like Christianity, socialism imagines the radical transformation of society through the equitable sharing of resources. The kingdom of God, which Jesus points us to, is also a kingdom of social justice. But crucially, it comes about by the conversion of one human heart at a time, and not by political means. Someone who experiences this rebirth through conversion will freely renounce rights and claims over material possessions and put the welfare of others ahead of him or herself.
We can all agree socialism's record is decidedly unchristian. Socialist states have uniformly been coercive and violent. Turns out you can't force people to share.
You really can't. Just check out my kids. Also, because it doesn't get to the root of human nature, which so often places self-actualization and personal fulfillment before the needs of others, people can tend to be less inclined to work, and that's one of the major accusations against socialism. It doesn't incentivize labor.
Right, because there's no material reward for work that's well done.
Where's the validation? Jesus turns this value system upside down. He warns against the acquisition of wealth, Luke 6:24, tells his followers to deny themselves, Luke 9:23, and calls them to works of mercy, Matthew 25:31. And he says, even when you've done all these things, you should say, we have only done our duty. So you shouldn't look for recognition.
Early Christian writers were all over this. St. Basil the Great, bishop in Asia Minor in the 4th century, said, when a man strips another of his clothes, he's called a thief. Should not a man who has the power to clothe the naked but does not do so be called the same? The money in your vaults belongs to the destitute. You do injustice to every man whom you could help, but do not. If you are rich, how can you afford to remain so?
I don't have a choice. It's what my parents named me. So, more St. Basil. If you cared for the poor, it would consume your wealth. When each one receives a little for one's needs, and when all owners distribute their means simultaneously for the care of the needy, no one will possess more than his neighbor. Yet, it is plain that you have very many lands. Why? Because you have subordinated the relief and comfort of many to your convenience. And so, the more you abound in your riches, the more you are deficient in love.
Doesn't mince words much, does he?
Here's a zinger from St. John Chrysostom, also 4th century church leader. Now, don't tell me that you actually work hard if you call earning money, making business deals, and caring for your possessions work. I say, no, that is not work. But alms, prayers, the protection of the injured and the like, these are genuine work. You charge the poor with idleness, I charge you with corrupt behavior. Let us learn that as often as we have not given alms, we shall be punished, like those who have plundered. For what we possess is not personal property, it belongs to all.
And he continues, God generously gives all things that are much more necessary than money, such as air, water, fire, the sun. All these things are to be distributed equally to all. Mine and thine, these chilling words which introduce innumerable wars into the world, should be eliminated from the church. Then the poor would not envy the rich, because there would be no rich. Sorry. Neither would the poor be despised by the rich, for there would be no poor. All things would be in common.
All things in common, just like Acts. And here's Ambrose Bishop of Milan in the 4th century with some words that the 1% at the top would do well to listen to. You are not making a gift of your possessions to the poor. You are handing over to them what is theirs. For what has been given in common for the use of all, you have arrogated to yourself. The world is given to all, and not only to the rich. How'd you like that?
I like the word arrogated.
It's a great word. Another early church father, Augustine of Hippo, preached a whole bunch of sermons on the subject of wealth. For him, material possessions were to be considered dangerous because they lead to avarice, which corrupts the heart. And although he may not have promoted it as a practical answer for all believers, the model of the Acts 2 and 4 community was for him the ideal of Christian life.
Well, here's the biggest difference I see between gospel living and socialism. Socialism just stops with the equitable distribution of goods, and it doesn't address the other value systems that contribute to injustice. But on the other hand, Jesus turns everything upside down, and he insists on, gasp, obedience, which is so not a progressive value. So while a Christian society's economics would be leftist, its family life and culture, to quote C.S. Lewis again, would appear rather old-fashioned. Now, what would that kind of life look like?
In our next video, we're going to talk about some of our own experiences trying to put this stuff into practice and the challenges and rewards we've experienced along the way.
Should be interesting. Thanks for watching.